All right. Marv, it's good to connect with you again. You're
Yeah.
looking you're looking spry as always. You're anti-aging. What's the
I know.
secret?
If I had a secret, I probably would just hang on to it and then sell it for $1 billion. There's no secret.
Only a billion? I bet you could get more than that even.
Oh, that's Ryan Millard type money in Italy.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish. Oh man, it's good to connect with you. How's everything? How's the family?
Good. Knock on wood. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
And yours?
Um, yeah, everything's going well. It's I mean as well as you can expect in crazy 2020, but the year is almost over, so hopefully there are brighter horizons on in 2021.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Hey, I don't know if I've ever heard this, but what's your origin with volleyball? How did you ever get into the sport?
Yeah. Ryan, it wasn't a traditional way. And I don't know if anybody has a traditional way, but so I grew up in a place called Topanga Canyon, and a guy moved in there in early '60s named Chuck Nelson, and he ended up playing in the 64 games in Tokyo, and so I was kind of aware of volleyball, but I never played it, and it wasn't until boy after Vietnam that I went to Japan as an exchange student, cultural exchange, and I saw it and went to back to Pierce Junior College and said, "Hey, let's start a men's team here." And then I wasn't very good, got into it late, and but I was really lucky to get with at Pepperdine with Bert DeGroot and a guy named Harlan Cohen. So I got in late, but with really good coaches, and then I got exposed to Carl and Jim Coleman and Doug Beal, and I was in the right place at the right time, but mostly with the right people.
Yeah. Pierce ended up being a nice feeder program for you guys at Pepperdine eventually. I mean, there was a lot of good players that came through that system that eventually played for you guys.
Yeah, including a couple of your teammates, Kevin Barnett. And
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so you're a late bloomer playing the game. Why did you eventually then gravitate towards getting into the coaching side? And when did that happen?
it happened again. I'm pretty lucky. It happened when I was at Pepperdine finishing my degree. I was done with my eligibility, and those coaches asked me, "Hey, could you help out here?" And mostly admin during the day, and kind of like almost a graduate assistant. And then one of them moved to San Clemente, and then Harlan said, "Would you like to help me?" And and it took off from there.
Yeah. And you stayed there for a few years, just a couple years, and we'll talk a
Hey,
little bit about that.
hey, before we go too far,
Yeah.
I'd like to go to when we were recruiting you, and not to go into the details, but everything was on percent and so on and so forth. And when you came on your official visit, we only had so much money, and
Right.
I didn't think it was enough, but I said, "Hey, let's get them here and see what happens." And I don't know if you remember it, but our house is kind of like the game house, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Oh, I
horse,
remember.
yeah, and Finny going on.
Oh, yeah.
And what I like to do is I like to play with and against recruits, and
Yeah.
because then I like to find out how competitive are these characters. And I think it was when I was playing with you in ping pong, and I kind of ruined my night because you were so competitive, and you were saying all the right things, doing all the right things, and I said, "Man, I got to go take some money from somebody else and give it to this guy and his family." And it was a really fun time. And I've told that story many times that it was easy for me to see that you get it. And I'll say this for everybody's listening. I think elite athletes like yourself are rare, and they're 1 in 10,000. And and I'm not just saying this because we're having this conversation right now. I felt it then, and I obviously I was with you a little bit at a couple of those Olympic Games, and
Yeah.
just a blessing to have somebody like you on the team. And you know what, my follow up to that is, I think athletes and people like you view the world a little bit differently, and you learn from your failures and you learn from your successes, and you kind of treat those characters the same. And it wasn't like you went to BYU and just you got it right,
Right.
or you got with the Olympic team and you got it. You had that, and so my question is, you know, I'm not a growth and development guy, but when did you think that evolved to where you just said, "Hey, I'm going to be this proactive athlete"? And I don't think it's anything you did consciously, but when do you think that happened with you?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think you're right. When my freshman year at BYU, our team was really young. If I remember right, I think we started 5 freshmen and a junior. That was our starting 6. So I think we knew we were going to eventually be good, but we weren't that good that year. I think where it really started clicking was that next year in '97, which we actually, my sophomore year, we took a big leap forward, and as a team, and I actually personally I felt like a pretty big leap forward as well, just in my development as a player. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the coaching staff that we had at BYU, which was ridiculous, with Carl and Hugh and Troy and Tom Peterson at the time, and just a lot of really good volleyball minds, Rob Browning. And
But can I interrupt you?
yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you were saying and what you're going to say. But when do you remember us talking about you maybe even setting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, you could have Vincent, you could have set in China, and Lloyd could have been in the middle, and we would have won because we had some competitive characters. But
Yeah.
I saw it, those traits that I just alluded to before you got to BYU, and then obviously it sounds like you grew and you improved.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. You're right. You're right. It's from a volleyball development standpoint, I felt like I really took a big leap forward that second year of college. To what you're talking about, a lot of that is contributed to. I don't know if you remember our high school coach. His name is Mike Bird.
Yep.
He played at Cal State Northridge. He was a wonderful outdoor player as well, and he was the most competitive guy I've ever known, still to this day. And that includes you, and you're a competitive guy. But this guy, he would practice with us all the time. He would never let us win, and he would do whatever it took to win. And it just created a team culture in that high school team of mine, which were a bunch of scrubby kids from the Antelope Valley, by the way. It just so happened that, I was one of those players. And then we also had Mac Wilson on my high school team, who was 6'9", eventually played on the national team, won multiple national championships at BYU as well. So we had good players, but the ability for Mike Bird to instill a culture of competitiveness is what lit that fire initially. Because when I first got into high school, I wasn't even super into volleyball. I was much more into basketball, but obviously growing helped a lot, and developing, being able to handle I'm talking physically growing, helped a lot, and being able to handle that from a physical standpoint helped a lot in my development. But that competitive fire built there in all of those practices, grinding it out in high school and playing those high school tournaments and playing club and all of that down there.
Got it.
Yeah.
So and I know this is your show. I got to get my money's worth here. So, and this will be only one small aspect of the volleyball part. I think the way I would teach iWork is a little bit different than what I saw in you as a blocker. And I'm kind of curious what you consciously, now looking back, what did you watch? And I'll just say this: usually I have the blockers, leave, the pass ball as soon as they know it's not coming over, and then get on to the what's going to happen next, the center. And Ryan, when I watched you over the years, yours was a much broader view, and that you didn't just hone in on this setter, and you kind of took in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
I think it's spot on. Look, whether that's the right way to do it, it worked for me because I've been in the camps. I've taught blockers that it's, ball setter, ball hitter, all that good stuff, and make sure you're focusing on the right areas. But man, oh man, when you're at that top level, it's hard to do individualistic focusing when you've got 5 Brazilians or 5 7-foot Russians coming at you. It's almost like you have to be able to absorb all of that information. Otherwise, you're gonna leave something that might dictate to you what's going to be happening next. Because as a blocker, that's what you're looking for, right? It's you're looking for an ability to read what's going to be happening so that you can react in time in order to get to the right spot. And I feel like at that level, you have to almost absorb everything. So for me, it was very peripheral. I wanted to know what the outside was doing as much as the right side, as much as the guy coming in for the bick, as much as my responsibility with the quick, and also what the setter was doing. Now, a lot of people listening are probably like, well, that's like, how do you do that? That's impossible. But, I think maybe that's what separates a lot of the good from the great, is that they're able to absorb a lot of that all coming at you at the same time.
Yeah. I just read an article of Tom Brady being able to see, both sidelines. And so, you saw it pretty well. And
Yeah.
Maybe next time I work with a team, I'll say, hey, block like Ryan Millar.
I want to ask you something that goes back a little bit to what you were saying about when you were recruiting me. So I don't know if you remember this, but it was the night before signing day. And I was on the phone with you, and I was on the phone with Carl, and then I was on the phone with you, and then I was on the phone with Carl. And like you said, we were just kind of working out numbers here or there, but I was razor thin margin from calling you and saying, hey, I want to come and be a Wave. If I would have came to Pepperdine, how many national titles would we have won with that team, with George coming in and the guys that you had there? And what do you think?
What? I haven't thought about that, but more than we did without you. I know. It was But
I've thought about that because George and I became pretty close as we got on the national team. We were roommates. We played together professionally, and we talked about it every once in a while. So, anyways, fun to reminisce.
Yeah, and Ryan, along those lines, you don't always win with the best players, but I think it's difficult to win unless you have a couple special players, and both of you guys were special, as you know.
Yeah. I want to keep going on your coaching journey. So you get kind of the call to take over the national team in the late 80s. What did you enjoy most about switching gears a little bit at that time and going and being a part of that team?
Yeah. My things were going pretty good at Pepperdine. So we were 83, 4, 5, and we were in the finals and we won it. And I wasn't chomping at the bit saying, hey, I have to coach at the next level. And it was really Doug that kind of talked me into it. And then it was, obviously coaching at the highest level, and 3 or 4 guys from 84 went on to 88, but they were 3 or 4 really good guys, right?
Yeah.
And so we were and then when we added to that mix with Stork and Staverlik and Partee and Eric Sato, Tanner, we were really good, and just when we won it all, it was a little bit of a relief for me. And I've said this before, that basically I didn't screw it up.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So, and even, I've talked to Karch a little bit, the euphoria, the goofiness of winning in LA, it was all joy. And it wasn't drudgery, marching to 88. because we won things along the way. But I think we were all carrying, all of a sudden we were on TV a lot, and we played, I don't know, 70, 80, 90 matches a year all over the world. We were full time. So it went by fast, and it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot, and it's neat being part of something good. And I've said this before, you don't have to win to have this feeling, but teams are really special. And you'll remember the teams and the characters you were with at BYU or with USA team, and arguing about Finney and who's cheating in the bus and whatever on the ride to the games.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah. And I was in the front of the bus, but I sure heard it. I don't know who.
I'm sure you did.
And who was cheating?
I don't know. It was everybody probably. Look, we're all competitive. We want to win. So, the thing about it is we'd have multiple games going. You know what I mean? It wouldn't just be a group of 4 guys. It would be like 3 or 4 groups of guys back there playing. So,
we've kind of like evolved to that. Where winners move up, losers move down.
Yeah, seriously, it's true. What did you? Well, let me switch gears here. Thinking back on it now, what would you change or do differently during your time at Pepperdine? 34 years. Is there anything that like you wish you would have done differently, or that if you had a chance you would change and do it differently?
Not too much, because I guess I never thought I didn't say, hey, we're going to have all this success, and I didn't know, so I wouldn't change too much. But I think maybe being exposed a little bit earlier, or paying more attention to what the science that Carl McGowan shared with me actually was all about, and I got a little more in depth. Because I think that eventually helped a lot, because when I first started coaching, it was, Marv, why are we doing this? And I said, well, at that time the Russians were good, and actually Poland. I said, because the Russians and the Poles did this. I didn't really know what was the why behind things, and I was exposed to Carl and Coleman pretty early, but it probably took me a little while to get up to speed with that stuff.
Yeah. Carl was a master at that. Absolutely. I mean, I tell people all the time that I learned how to compete in high school. We talked about, but Carl taught me how to play volleyball, because that's what it was. I had all these mechanical things in my freshman year. He'd have me in there watching video, look at your arm here, look at your footwork there. This is a more effective way. This is more efficient. You're going to generate more power. He was the master at that. So I agree with you.
Yeah. And one more thought, I think that this is for, mostly for young coaches, is that I probably would have reached out a little bit more. Eventually that happened, where I would watch the Dallas Cowboys practice in Thousand Oaks, and we learned how to slice up some video and all that stuff. But I was exposed to, John Wooden early on too, but probably even reaching out more to guys like Coleman and Beal, Shondell, Skates, whatever. Because, I was in my own little gym thinking, hey, I know how to teach this stuff. And I probably would have grown a little bit more, a little bit faster. And maybe, maybe, because I think a feeling I have looking back now that you asked that is that had I been better my first couple of years, maybe we have another banner. And I think we're all kind of a work in progress, but I think reaching out to people, and even people that you're competing against, and the whole level rises.
Everybody's got a different perspective. You've got your own perspective, and if you're only relying on your own perspective, you're only seeing a relatively small amount of the big picture.
Yep.
So that's a great point.
And actually, what I was, I don't know if collegiate coaches can do this, but when I was coaching the U.S. team, I had this advisory group somebody would analyze, because we were full-time then, right? Year round.
Right. Yep.
Somebody would analyze our running. Manny Batista was his name, this runner, and we used to run way too much, right? And then Carl was the motor learning guy, and then Doug and Neville and whatever were the volleyball guys. And I had Murray and Johnson, small group consultants. And so once a year, that group would come and they'd watch practice and they would slice up what we were doing. And it was sometimes it was tough to hear, but I mean, real tough to hear. But I think I learned and we learned and we got better and I got a little bit better. And in some way, shape or form, I think it's good to have somebody, especially people that, are good at what they do, analyze what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. How about the flip side to that? So if you had to pick out, you think back 34 years at Pep, what was your greatest source of joy? When you think back on that time, is there anything that really stands out to you? Just like, this is it?
Yeah. Ryan, I've shared this a lot. The best thing about coaching is you get to choose the people you go through life with. And for me, it's ongoing. Their joys are my joys. Their disappointments are my disappointments, and it's lifelong. And so Pepperdine volleyball is 50 years of Pepperdine volleyball. I've been involved for 48 of the 50, and wow. And I know we have a little poster behind us with every guy that's played, and in our program, and to kind of like follow them and be in touch with them, and they're an extended family, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. You alluded to this a little bit. I want to maybe expand on a little bit. What, in your eyes and all of you've seen, what separates?
Are you saying I'm old?
Not at all. You have very experienced eyes.
Okay.
What separates the good players, because you've seen a lot of good players, from the truly great players?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we talked about, at the very start of this was, I don't know how we want to say this, but how they treat and learn from success and failures, and they don't go up and down. And if by chance they lose, they learn from it, and they don't go down and and wallow in it, and they adjust, and I think it's really rare to have that, because we're all kind of like emotional human beings.
Right. And losing can be debilitating for some people. It can deter them from growing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I don't, when I think of the teams that you were on, USA teams, I mean, they were always playing forward, the next play, and at a high level. And, we always talk about leaving the last play behind, but,
right.
To truly do that. So that would be, I would say and also, I think there's a difference between, like we talked about the games we played, whether it's horseshoes or ping pong or finny at my place. And anybody can be competitive at that, but it's there's a difference between competitiveness and toughness. And when you're tough, you have to overcome things. And so I think that the groups or the individuals that do well are tough. And when I say that, not stupid tough, like the baseball guys that go in and take the bat and beat up the Gatorade jug, whatever. What good does that do? But when you overcome things, and the international arena, it can be really tough. Sometimes you're in a third or fourth world country trying to qualify for something, and the conditions are tough. And in Beijing, as you know, that was a tough situation, and but it was a pretty tough group.
Yeah, that was a tough group. I want to talk to you a little bit about that, but I want to get your perspective just from a coaching standpoint, a little technical. What do you feel like is the most underdeveloped volleyball skill for players? Like they need to focus on this more than players that you maybe have seen actually do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I guess when I've seen other teams along the way at, you know, a junior level or a World University Games, it seems like, and maybe that's changing as we evolve, but it seemed like they saw the game better than we did. And so whatever in our training that we could accelerate that, I don't think it would be one skill that comes to mind, but I think it was just how well they see the game and play it in spontaneous situations. And
Yeah.
I've always felt that. And you know, when along with that, it would probably be you know, maybe hand control.
Yeah.
I think they do a better job. They being, you know, whether it's, I don't know, Korea, Japan, or Poland. I remember a Polish coach named Stan Grosiniak.
I remember Stan. He
Yeah,
used to do all the sets between his legs and stuff, right?
he was the best.
Yeah.
He was the best. And he told me how they taught hitting in Poland, and it's a little bit different than I think we spend a lot of time on footwork, and there it was approach this way, hit this way, approach this way, hit that way. And a lot of it was arms. So I think hand control, you know, and maybe seeing the game better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
you know, probably those two things.
Yeah. I think those are both spot on. We talked about this a little bit already too, but anyone that I have on that has had a relationship with Carl, I always ask him this question. Do you have any favorite McGowan stories? Because I feel like everybody that has interacted with Carl in some way or another has some either funny or insightful or some type of interesting Carl story.
Yeah. So Carl and I went back to the early 70s. And so
Yeah.
how much time do we have?
Yeah. Yeah. I knew you would have a lot of them.
No, yeah. And Ryan, I think I mentioned this one the other day. So I'd been at, you know, he was very helpful for me for the 70s and 80s. And, you know, we'd won, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 NCAA championships. And this is after, let's see, we'd won in 88. And so in 92, we win it in 92. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to write the people that really count, that have helped me along the way. And so number one is Carl. And I write this, I don't know, maybe 3-page letter. And
I'm laughing because I remember you telling me this story. It's funny.
yeah,
It's so Carl.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a neat time because I got kind of emotional. I really told him how I about him and what he had done for me, and nothing. And then I don't know, like a couple weeks later, I get a letter, and I'm thinking, oh, he's writing a thank you and
Yeah.
so forth. And it says, "Grateful only has one L." I misspelled grateful. That was it. It didn't say Carl. It didn't say anything else. And, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's Carl. That was Carl.
But he was the ultimate for when I was coaching the U.S. team. He was the ultimate spy, and
Yeah.
he'd tell you every tournament exactly where he sat, and all this stuff was going around about, hey, they're going to start in this row, this is going to happen, so on and so forth. And I remember one time at the World Championships in '86, he goes, we're going to play Brazil. And he said, they're going to start in row 4, and they're going to run a tight quick instead of deep. And so we flipped Timmons as like, and put Timmons on the left as a opposite, and he stuffed this guy silly, and we were off to the races. And yeah, most of the stories that are just on how good he was, and he was, you know, just ahead of his time. And
Yeah.
with me, you know, I think sometimes if you didn't play the game the way he wanted. If he didn't train the way he wanted, he wasn't opposed to dehumanizing you, you know.
Right.
And but for me, it was always, you know, he would say Marvy, and then he would just go into what his deal. Well, as soon as he said Marvy, I would kind of melt, you know, and so I would always, yeah. So wait a minute, now you got to give me one.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Okay. So just to give, so you had to earn his respect, but when you earned it and he had it and he gave it his respect to you, it was a wonderful place to be. So there was a younger player in the gym. We were going at it pretty hard, and this younger player who hadn't earned his respect yet was having a really horrible day at practice. He was just spraying balls everywhere, and Carl didn't like the way he was disrupting what we were trying to achieve. So he hits another ball out of bounds, and he goes, "Everybody, okay, stop, stops practice, goes over to this." He had to have been a freshman, maybe. Puts his hands on his cheeks, which he does a lot to people, and he slaps him, and he goes, "You really suck today," right in front of everybody, and the gym's quiet, and he's like, "You are really terrible," and he's like kind of slapping him in the face, and you can kind of see this guy's like demeanor just, I mean, his will to live just leaves his body. And then Carl goes, "But there's always tomorrow." And he goes, go ahead and head home. So he sends him out of the gym. He tells him to leave, and we still had like an hour and a half of practice left. And so we're like, it was kind of one of those moments where you're like, you didn't know if he was like disciplining him or if he was really just trying to give him a reset or what. But the guy came in the next day, and he actually played a lot better. So maybe Carl knew something that we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I've all kinds of flashbacks now, and I don't think I've shared this. I don't know if it's a great story, but we had played Brazil in Mexico City, 75 Pan Am Games. Whoever wins gets a bronze medal. Right? Whoever loses is out, and so we lose, and we go back to the village, and we're in line, you know, at the cap, right? And all of a sudden, this whole delegation from Brazil, not just the volleyball delegation, but seemed like the whole federation cut in front of us. And he starts yelling. He goes, "Hey, hey, hey." And then he goes, "Marv, are you going to take that?" You know, he starts, you know, putting me in front to confront these guys.
You're the muscle. You're the muscle. Oh, that's funny. Oh, man. Tell me, just give me really quickly your thoughts on that 08 team. When you think back to Beijing and that team, what stands out just with your experience with being involved with that group of guys?
Yeah, well, as you know, right, then I would kind of come along as a spy, you know,
Right.
The players and the coaches, the full-time coaches, did all the heavy lifting, and you know, I would, and usually it was on serve block defense.
Right.
So, and that was the plan going into those games. And then when the tragic thing happened, Ron got bumped up, and John Spraw was the serve block D, and all of a sudden I was with the offense, you know, and you know, we're chatting with Lloyd, and you know, it wasn't like I was going to teach him anything, but I was.
He was pretty good by that time.
Yeah, and just hey, here's what I see, you know, a few of those chats, and you know, just a little sidebar. I remember when we played Bulgaria. What was that guy's name?
Kaczynski,
yeah. So we were ready to close out this match. So he's back to serve, right? And I had seen him in other matches when I was spying, you know, where all of a sudden he'd roll the ball, and it wouldn't even get to the 3-meter line. Nobody would even touch it. And I said, hey, watch for the roll. And he hit it 1,000 miles an hour. And I think Lamborn popped it up, and we sat out, and said, oh, there's great coaching right there.
Yeah. You're going out on a limb because he probably didn't do the roll very much. That guy had a good arm.
Oh man, yeah, he was tough. He was good. But the you know, our team was good, and I thought, you know, I always feel comfortable when we can pass set hit. And I think we had with Riley and Reed and Rich,
Oof.
we had good passing. And so when you think of pass that hit, we had Loy who could locate a ball,
Yeah.
and we had guys that hit in. So I always felt comfortable as a coach with that. And hey, can we ace them? Can we block them? Can we turn them? Maybe, but I think that's a good feeling to know that you can side out. And
Yeah.
as the pool and was it Serbia in 5, Russia in 5, and then Brazil in 4, and
Yeah.
it doesn't get much tighter than that. And
No. Yeah. 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 It was great memories to think back on, but it was a grind for sure. It was great to have you along. It was a special moment, obviously.
yeah, and Ryan, when we found out what had happened, and the coaches knew that before the players, and we went to that little
The little boardroom kind of thing, right?
the
Yeah.
training center for the U.S. team,
Yeah.
and one of my memories of that was there was hope he's not listening to this, but somebody from the USOC, and it was his job, young guy, to kind of like maybe hold the group together. And I think some older people were doing what they needed to do. There was a lot of uncertainty because we didn't know what was really happening, and
Yeah.
families and friends
Families were
coming
flying in right then. We had family members on planes coming to Beijing at that moment.
Yeah, and I remember being in that room and with the State Department and the Olympic Committee, and talking, and this one guy said, "Hey, it's at times like this we need to focus on so on and so forth." And all of a sudden the players started saying, "Hey, F you, I need to decide in 20 minutes if I can get on this plane." And then that's when we said, "Hey, let's." I took that guy aside and said, "Hey, we'll talk to you later."
We'll handle this from here. Thanks, though. That's funny. All right, go ahead. Yeah, it was a special time. All right, I want to ask you. These are really
one more volleyball question.
Sure.
Yeah, were you a better hitter or a better blocker?
Oh man, no one's ever asked me that, but I've actually thought about that myself. I think you hit on something. I don't know if this answers the question, but I always thought I was a very good read blocker. I just, like we talked about, but I also prided myself on having incredible range in the middle. Look, I wasn't the biggest guy. I couldn't jump the highest. I didn't hit the hardest or whatever, but I was fast, and I was always available, as you saw a number of times with the connection that Loy and I had, and him shoveling me balls when he just had no right to do that, but he knew that I was always going to be available and at least put some wood on the ball to put the ball down. And so I think if I had to twist my arm, I probably would say I was probably a little bit better hitter just because of the range I was able to have in the middle. But that being said, I mean, I don't think I was a bad blocker by any means, but
no, you were a great blocker. And you touched, another memory I have of you is that when Lloyd was throwing the ball to you, what some quick hitters would do, the pass is like, beyond the 3-meter line, right? And then if they get set, they don't prep to hit, they just throw it around. And I thought that you put, like you said, you put some good wood on it, and you always prep to hit.
Yeah, that's how I would answer that. But
yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking you were going to say maybe because you terrorized Pepperdine so often, just helping us in control and everything. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, without question, I was a better blocker." And yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you some.
Interrupt you, do you?
What's that?
You don't mind if I interrupt you along the way?
No, not at all. I just have questions, but you ask all you want. You might ask me some of these because these ones are kind of fast, just get to know you kind of questions. Like, okay, here's the first one. What's something that not many people know about you? So like if your friends listen to this, they would be like, "Hey, I didn't know that about Marv." Do you have any hidden talents or things that not many people know?
They probably don't know that I got into volleyball pretty late. They just
Yeah.
assume,
Late, like how old?
oh boy, like I said, after Vietnam, and I was
Oh, yeah.
20, what, 20 years old, 21.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just assume Southern Cal, he's, he's a beach rat, and now
Right.
he's this and so on and so forth. Um,
What were you doing before? What were your interests when you were in your teens and stuff?
uh, it wasn't very sophisticated. I
Oh,
probably a kind of a wood shop guy.
okay.
Yeah.
I like
And,
that.
I thought of, maybe teaching, coaching, but wasn't very crystallized. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Something they don't know. Well, a lot of people they have the image of a Vietnam vet, right? Well,
Right.
it's street and we'll work for food with the sign, whatever. And I get this a lot when they find out. I mean, I'll go for years without people ever talking about Vietnam or whatever. But they'll say stuff. I didn't know you were in Vietnam. It's like it doesn't fit. And I don't know what else. Something that people don't know. Yeah.
That's it. You got it. You nailed it.
I might come up with something as we go here.
That's fine. Um, what's the trait you most dislike about yourself?
A trait, yeah, probably that I like working on our property, on our land, but I should probably, as you get older, you need to exercise in a consistent manner, and I'm kind of inconsistent, so I should I should probably get a little friskier with some sort of exercise routine.
I like that. That's good. How about the trait that you most dislike in others? Does anything really just irk you?
First thing that comes to mind would be with coaches or athletes would be excuses.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe when you know they're not sincere. So like Carl, you knew that he cared, right, which is a lot, but also he was authentic, he was real.
Yeah.
And I think when you know that people don't really care, like you're talking to them and then they gravitate toward King Kong, who just came into the room, they leave you, and
Right.
and just maybe that don't listen very well, and that they,
Yeah.
somewhat insincere.
This one's interesting. If you never got into volleyball, if you never found volleyball, what would you be doing right now, do you think? Or how would your life would have looked differently based on what you would have been doing?
You know what? I probably would have been in teaching in some way, shape, or form. Yeah,
Anything in particular that you would have liked to have taught?
not really. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I went to BYU, my degree's in education, and
Yeah.
I was along those lines. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think actually, as I think about it, I guess I kind of viewed in some way, shape, or form, coaching, and then not much other than that. But like I said, it wasn't crystallized for me on how it was going to go.
Yeah. Okay. This one will be interesting too, because you've obviously been all over the world. So you've got it's a dream vacation, all expenses paid. Where are you taking the family? Is there any place that you still haven't been that you've really wanted to go?
Yeah, I get that. I used to get that a lot. Hey, you've been to, I don't know, 45, 50 countries, and
Right.
played volleyball, a lot of them. What's your favorite country? And my answer to that question and yours is small town USA. Without question. I'll take a small town in, I don't know, Dakotas, Montana, Riley Salmon, I'm coming to wherever he's in Fargo or something like that.
Yeah, wherever he's at coaching his team.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, Ryan, I loved it when we do these tours. We did a lot more than, and we do the tours, and so well received, and such an honor to represent the U.S. And that was one of my favorite times, was on a tour in the U.S. and
somewhere in Nebraska. Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
How about you? The players, it was interesting when people would ask me, hey, what's your favorite country to go to play and whatever. The players always like Western Europe, Japan, where everything was nice and warm and clean, whatever.
And organized.
I like Cuba and I like Russia, and because we had international management group. All of a sudden after '84, Doug wins the gold medal with that group, and then a lot of money came in, and on these tours it was promoters and sponsors and appearances, and it's just a little bit of volleyball mixed in, and then when you went to Cuba, there's no, they were good, it was rough, and there were no promoters or appearances or whatever.
For me, I always tell people that I just, I envision a nice vacation somewhere warm with like one of those bungalows over the water, probably Bora Bora, something. I've been to New Zealand, but I've never been around the South Pacific, like Tahiti, Fiji, Bora Bora, like those places I think would be interesting to go to. So that's probably where I would go.
Okay.
Not a super exciting answer like small town America.
Yeah. Well, you're probably pretty close to that now where you live, right? You live in, do you live in the city or where?
I live South Salt Lake.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Last meal on earth. It's your last meal on earth. What's on your plate?
No question. Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, nice. This is timely then.
Yeah. It's not Italian.
That's your meal, huh? You like it all?
What's that?
You like it all? The turkey, the cranberry, the stuffing, all of it?
Yep. And I'm not a leftover guy, but for Thanksgiving, the next few days, I'm a leftover guy.
Yeah, that's good.
And then right after that, Ryan, and I'm not bragging about this, but I like hamburgers, and I've shared this before that, around here in Malibu now, and this staff, I said, hey, let's go get a burger. Nobody will go with me.
Because you're in Malibu.
No, because nobody goes to McDonald's anymore,
Right. I remember how much you liked McDonald's.
Yeah.
Is that like if you had a fast food burger, where are you going? Are you an In-N-Out guy? Are you a Five Guys guy?
I'm Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Five Guys and quarter pounders without cheese.
Okay. That's respectable.
And how about you? What's your favorite burger?
Probably Shake Shack. It's grown on me. They have a burger in particular that I really like. I like what they put on it. The bun, the meat is really good. It's important. But they've got a really good sauce, and they chop up these little hot red peppers, and they put those on it with a little bacon too. Oh man, it's tasty.
All right.
Yeah. This one will be interesting because I don't know if you watch a lot of video content, movies, TV shows, but can you name a movie or show where you shed a tear?
You know what? So I'm kind of like a Bambi and Old Yeller guy, right?
Yeah.
But not shed a tear. Yeah. Give me something old where the good guys win, and like the Pride of the Yankees, the Lou Gehrig story, or Sergeant York with Gary Cooper, tough situation, World War I, and he did a job. But
all right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. This one I'm interested in your response to.
Oh,
It's
you got to tell me yours
no,
now.
I told you that you were going to reverse these on me. I knew this was going to happen. Oh gosh, let's see. Rudy always gets me. It's just, you know, he just tried and tried and tried. He never gave up. And you got to respect that, you know what I mean? And when he finally was able to get in, and it's a true story, and he got in, he got the sack, and everybody and his teammates stood up for him. All of that is, to me, is pretty powerful. So that's a good one for me. Plus
Did you
my wife, she got her PhD from Notre Dame, so she likes it too. So
got it? Did you ever see? Maybe this is before you. Do you ever see Brian's song?
no, but I know that movie. I've never seen it though.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty neat. It's about a guy
Okay.
named Brian Piccolo and his relationship with Gail Sayers, and I think you'll you'll like it.
Okay. Give me one word that you hope you would be remembered by.
Uh, Probably something like loyal.
Yeah,
Uh,
I could see that.
and I like the word authentic. You know, when
Yeah.
and I hope to be authentic, right? And not that I'm not saying, hey, I am, but so people would know what they get. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that too. Okay, last question, then I'll let you go. This is an important one. Actually, it's a two-parter.
Yeah, it might be four-part if I come back at you.
Who was the toughest ping pong player you ever played against at your house?
Yeah, little Soji.
Are you really
Yeah.
the libero now?
Yes,
Really? I didn't know that he was good.
he was great, and two-handed. Yeah, he was special.
Wow. So
Yeah,
game to 21.
not even close, Ryan. Not even close. And
Like, what are you scoring? How many points?
no, yeah. I mean, on the game to 21, I usually
Yeah.
part of winning is recruiting, right? So I would play. I'd got to check them out, and then I'd say, hey,
Tag in here.
give me two guys, and yeah.
That was our coach on ones at BYU. I don't know if Carl ever told you how it would work down. So whoever got a coach on one, Carl would start. And we used to call Carl Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. I don't know if you know him, but anyways, Carl would be like, take that, Millar, you know, and he'd hit it at you, and you'd be like, Carl, what are you doing? Like, it's super easy. And he'd be like, what about this one? And he'd like show it super early. So you just run over there and pop it up. He wouldn't even have to run. And then he would go, oh, I'm tired. And then he would tag in Hugh. And Hugh would just come in and just bombing. He like hitting the ball. You know, Hugh's a big guy, and he would just hammer the ball at you. And then he was good, and he was chopping it around. And by that time, you're like, okay, like I'm pretty gassed right now. And then Hugh's like, all right, I'm tagging you in. And then Hugh would tag in Tanner, and Troy would come in, and Troy's the precision guy. So he's chopping balls all over the gym, and you're running all over the place. And by that time, you're dead. And then Troy would tag in Rob Browning. And for people that know Rob Browning, he has the worst hand in the history of volleyball because he can never put like topspin on the ball. It always has like a weird kind of wobbly like rise to it. So by that time, you're barely standing up. Your hands are like down by your legs, and he is just pelting these balls at you, and they're all hitting you in the face. And that was how we would do our coach on ones at BYU. Just tag people in.
Yeah, coach on ones are the way society's going. They're probably outlawed nowadays.
Yeah, it's cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
you know George Romaine, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't opposed to working somebody, but sometimes before practice he'd say, "Hey, we need to get going right here." He goes, I'd be near the net, and he'd just say, "Go ahead and whack a few at me," and I would hit him point blank, trying to aim here. Once in a while, I'd get him, and he would just smile, and yeah,
he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Toughest player you ever played against playing Hearts?
Playing Finney?
Hearts. No, Hearts. Because I remember playing against you in Hearts, and you were ruthless.
Okay. but played against. You know what? Actually, Carl was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. He was.
Yeah. And when he learned Finney, the one thing that hurt him a little bit in Finney is that he was just the percentages guy. He would never been 4, even though he'd always been 3, and it used to kind of bug me because somehow he would stay with me or our team, whatever, as we were going up, and he didn't get too frisky, but I would say Carl was pretty darn good.
Yeah. You're with a good group of guys when you have guys like, regularly bidding 5s and 6s. That's when you've got a good run of Finney guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Marv, you did it. You passed all the tests.
Yeah.
Glowing colors, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your family. It's good to reconnect with you, and I wish you all the best and your family all the best, and it's just good to talk to you again.
Yeah, and Ryan, you know what, I think you were more finished than you give yourself credit for, but I'm really proud of who you are, and I look forward to staying in touch along the way.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye-bye.